Good afternoon, Evil, and I will tell you one story of a good viewing. I moved into apartment 3B on a damp autumn afternoon, enticed by its cheap rent and the promise of solitude. The building stood like a bruised sentinel at the end of the block, its paint peeling, windows darkened by grime. It's a steal, the landlord had promised, a wiry man with eyes too keen for his own face. I paid a month's rent up front, too eager to protest the electric scent of mildew that clung to the air. That night, I fell asleep to the echo of slow footsteps on the creaking stairs. At exactly midnight, a cold breeze brushed across my face. I awoke, startled, certain I'd left every window sealed. And yet, there it was, an open pane framed in twisted iron, glowing faintly under the moonlight. It did not belong. By morning, I could not find it. Walls were unbroken, plaster seamless. I chalked it up to a half-dream, a tired illusion born of stress. But sleep refused me afterward. The second night, I discovered muddy footprints on the sill, its frozen ooze collapsing into the room as though something had clambered through. My pulse pounded when I inspected the hallway. The walls were smeared with fresh streaks of dark moisture that vanished by sunrise. The landlord claimed ignorance when I confronted him. Old pipes, he muttered, but his eyes flickered toward the ceiling. I spent the rest of the day patching scratches on my doorframe, but each repair seemed already worn, as though something watched every move. On the third night, I heard whispering. It slithered through the vents, curling around my ears in a language half-remembered and wholly wrong. I pulled the blankets tight, pressing my face into the fading warmth of my pillow. When I dared to look, the window had swallowed the entire far wall, a jagged portal that pulsated with a sickly yellow light. Colors warped beyond recognition, the world outside was tinted green and trees bent at impossible angles, their branches gnarled into spindles that scratched at the sky. I sat transfixed until dawn, watching faces drift past, pale strangers with hollow eyes, their lips moving soundlessly as they pressed against the window from the other side. When morning came, the panes returned to plain walls. I blinked at the sunlight, convinced my mind had cracked. That very afternoon, I found an old diary wedged behind the radiator. Its pages were damp, ink scrawled in trembling spikes. They watch. They feed. The walls breathe. On the final page, a single word glistened as if freshly smeared. Run. I spent the next day in a frantic haze, packing clothes into garbage bags, determined to leave. But as dusk fell, the electricity died across the building. Hallway lights sparked and died. My phone buzzed in my pocket, an unknown number displayed 3B. I answered, voice trembling. On the other end, my own voice echoed back, choked with sobs, don't look. I dropped the phone, it shattered against the skirting board. Night 4 arrived with a metallic tang. The window appeared again, low and wide, and through it crawled something slick and long, an arm of glistening muscle that slithered inside like a snake. I screamed, dragging a chair beneath the frame, but it dissolved when I looked directly at it, leaving only a smear of oily film on the wood. The floorboards creaked beneath unseen weight, something moved in the walls, tunneling, searching. I barricaded the door with a dresser. The walls answered with distant booms as if something tried to break through from the other side. My heart pounded so loudly I feared it would give me away. By dawn, the dresser lay on its side, shredded splinters forming a macabre pattern on the carpet. And in the center, scrawled in crimson, hungry. On the fifth night, I fled to my neighbor's apartment, 2B. I pounded on the door, but no one answered. Through the peephole, I saw an endless hallway stretching into pitch black, impossible in a 5-unit building. I pressed my ear to the door, rhythmic breathing emanated from the other side, too slow, too deep to be human. I stumbled back, vomiting in the cold stairwell. When I returned to 3B at daybreak, all my windows were bricked over from the inside, cold mortar sealed my view. The diary lay open on the floor, its pages torn out. Lines of wet footprints led into the wall, stopping at a seam in the plaster. I did not sleep that day either. The temperature in the apartment fluctuated wildly, one moment I was freezing, the next sweltering. I tried to boil water, but the kettle screamed like a banshee. Every appliance screamed. I screamed back until the landlord arrived, pounding on the front door and shouting through the wood. He pried the door open. His jaw went slack at the sight of me, pale, wild-eyed, standing in a ruin of glass and ash. Before I could speak, he squeezed past and locked the door behind him. I heard the muffled thud of a body hitting the floor, followed by a garbled cry that ended abruptly. Silence swallowed the hall. Night 6 bled into day. I grasped the knife, each breath a scream. When midnight struck, the windows emerged in clusters on the ceiling, the floor, even in the doorway. Each portal offered a glimpse of horrors beyond, great columns of molten flesh, rivers of viscous black water, and in the distance, structures like towering cages where flailing forms pounded against their bindings. One window lay at my feet. Through it, I saw something perched upon my dresser, a massive, gaunt figure hunched forward, its face hidden underneath a curtain of wet sinew. Its head snapped up and the fabric fell away to reveal an eyeball the size of a human fist. It unfastened itself from the carcass it clung to, and the body collapsed into a moat of steaming gore. The creature's eye rolled in its socket, focusing on me, and I felt its awareness like a lance through my chest. I brandished the knife, shaking. The thing pressed its eye against the glass, and the scream it released vibrated through my bones. The word echoed across every pane, "Welcome." As the shriek faded, the windows vanished. The apartment returned to its hollow normality, each mirror cracked in a web shape across its surface. I sank to the floor, soaked in sweat and blood, mine or someone else's. The door creaked. I didn't look up. Without knocking, the landlord stepped in, dragging something under a sheet. He tossed it at my feet and left without a word. I peeled back the fabric. It was a hand, skin tattered away to reveal a lattice of exposed tendon and bone. Clutched tightly in its palm was a scrap of paper. "You're next." I, the tenant of apartment 3B, write this by the dim glow of my frightened mind. Outside, the city continues, blind to the building at its edge. Every night, a window opens. And every night, something comes through. Now I hear tapping at the walls as though the building itself thirsts for my terror. By day a whisper lingers beneath the floorboards, a soft pleading, the last breath of each tenant swallowed without trace. I trace the cracks in the plaster, but they shift like living veins, pulsing with a dark warmth. My knuckles are raw from pulling at unseen nails beneath the wallpaper, desperate for an exit. Tonight, I will stand by the largest window, they keep coming, and face whatever lies beyond. I will not run. I will watch the new world break through. I brace myself against the cold stone sill of the largest window, thighs trembling as the clock inches toward midnight. The scraped letters on the floor, "Feed," "Hungry," "Welcome," "You're next," burn behind my eyelids, fueling a frenzy of fear and defiance. Tonight, I will not flee. Tonight, I watch. The hands of the antique clock on the mantel tick over to 11:59. The world outside falls away in a stuttering breath. I steady my knife with blood-slick fingers, knuckles white, the blade catching the wavering lamplight like a silent promise. I swallow hard, tasting copper on my tongue, and press my back flat to the wall so that my shadow soars long behind me. Midnight arrives in a heartbeat of silence, and then crack, a fissure of light splits the plaster. First one window appears at the center of the far wall, then another at the baseboards, and a third overhead, forming a triangular portal into somewhere unholy. The edges of each frame glow with a sickly greenish hue that seeps into the apartment like poison. I stare, heart lodged in my throat, as shifting scenes play out in each pane. Through the top window, I glimpse a sky roiling with crimson clouds, lightning jagged and silent. The rightmost portal reveals a forest of black trunks, their bark oozing smears of molten silver. In the left, a cityscape of spired buildings leans at impossible angles as though the very geometry of that world has gone mad. From each window slithers a hand, first one, then the others, pale, jointed crookedly, fingers too long by inches. They stretch toward me in unison, refusing to break the surface tension of their frames. My knife falls heavy in my grip. My breath hitches and I slide down the wall until I sit on the floor, legs folded beneath me. They come next. With a groan of warped metal, the panes pull inward like drawers opening, and the hands follow, dragging limbs of viscous flesh. The air fills with the stink of rot and cold sweat. I see feet skinless, claws like talons touching the floorboards. I see torn fabric where ribs poke through. And I see faces, skullheads drifting loose, eyes blossoming on stalks, mouths stretched with anticipation. I close my eyes. I cannot look, but my body will not obey. My skin crawls with the weight of their gaze. I hear them whisper, and the sound coils around my spine like a serpent. Come. Join us. A single foot steps through the left portal. The floor yelps, a crack beneath its weight. Then the second foot. I taste bile in the back of my throat. The thing drags itself fully into my apartment, then the next from the right, and finally from above, a hulking mass that presses the ceiling downward with the weight of its anticipation. 3 creatures stand before me, bathed in the eldritch moonlight streaming through the windows. Their leader, tallest, with a body composed of stacked segments of bone, tilts its head and exhales a sigh like wind through tombstones. From its maw drips a viscous ichor that splatters onto my rug. My knife clatters to the floor. I stare at it, resigned, as though gravity itself betrays me. A voice like breaking glass speaks inside my skull. Feed. I look up. The bone speaker steps forward, each movement distorting the light into a prism of nightmares. It raises a palm, the same hand that once pounded on my door, leaving the clawed imprint in the drywall. In its cupped hollow rests a shimmering mote of light that pulses with the rhythm of a heartbeat. It extends the offering toward me. I might have howled in rage or terror, but instead I did something I can scarcely believe. I ran my fingertips through that soft glow. It quivered like a living thing, then exploded across my palm in a tendril of warmth. I recoiled, but the warmth spread into my veins, igniting something cold and dormant. The monsters watch as I slump to my knees, trembling. I taste stars in my mouth, each breath a galaxy tearing open. And then, ever so faintly, I hear the landlord's laughter mixing with my own. It echoes through the building's arteries, resonating beneath the floorboards, rattling the plaster. Above me, the largest window dims and seals shut without sound. The other two follow. The creatures vanish, leaving behind only the scent of iron and ozone. The fragments of their world dissolve into motes of dust that drift through the stale air. My hand glows faintly, the pulsating light now housed within my palm like a heartbeat. The apartment is silent, too silent, and the doors creak open on their own. I rise unsteadily. Every exit stands before me, the main door, my bedroom door, the hallway leading to the lobby. All are open, agape an invitation or perhaps in warning. I do not hesitate. I step through the doorway and into the hallway. The walls shift behind me, the corridor fans out in a fractal maze of doorways, each labeled 3B, each promising the same horrors I just survived. In my chest, the light pulses stronger now, a beacon guiding me forward. I take a trembling breath and continue down the infinite hall. Behind me, I hear the soft click of windows closing. Ahead, I catch a final glimpse of my apartment through an open door. The diary lies on the floor, pages splayed and scratched upon the plaster in fresh ink, bold and final, "Welcome home." I close the door behind me, letting the whisper of that message follow me into the maze. Tonight, I chase the windows back to whatever abyss birthed them, armed not just with terror, but with the light they offered. And if the building devours me, then perhaps I will become the light that guides the next tenant through the dark. After all, every window opens for someone. Every door invites for a reason. And every dark corridor needs a guide. I only hope I survive long enough to become one. Thank you very much. See you all in the next video.